The Syrian desert stretched endlessly, a vast, indifferent canvas of sand and rock baking under a merciless sun. It was a place of ancient echoes and forgotten roads, yet for those who trafficked in shadows, it was a vital artery, a clandestine highway for illicit activities. Across its barren expanse, a silent, deadly game unfolded daily, far from the world's prying eyes. For too long, Iranian weapons had flowed unimpeded into Syria, a corrosive tide destabilizing an already fractured region, arming proxies, and fueling conflicts that threatened to engulf the entire Middle East. This relentless influx had become a festering wound, a strategic nightmare for those committed to regional stability. Deep within the labyrinthine corridors of intelligence agencies, a shadow organization known only as the Mossad observed, analyzed, and planned. Their network, intricate and far-reaching, comprised agents who moved like ghosts through the geopolitical landscape, their existence often denied, their operations shrouded in impenetrable secrecy. It was through this clandestine web that the first whispers began to surface. A high-value Iranian weapons convoy was being meticulously prepared. The intelligence was fragmented, like shards of a broken mirror, but the implications were chilling. These were not mere small arms. These were weapons capable of tipping the delicate balance of power, of escalating skirmishes into full-blown wars. The stakes, already impossibly high, were now raised to a perilous new level. At the heart of this intricate operation was Elias, a Mossad operative whose name evoked respect and fear in equal measure. His eyes, the color of storm-swept seas, held the weight of countless missions, a seasoned veteran whose relentless pursuit of objectives was legendary. Yet beneath the hardened exterior, a flicker of something more personal burned, a hint of past failures, a profound loss that fueled his unwavering resolve. It was a private wound, one that drove him to push boundaries, to demand more from himself and his team than anyone else dared. He carried the ghosts of those moments, ensuring they were never forgotten, ensuring he never repeated the mistakes that haunted his waking hours. Initial reports of the convoy's intended route were maddeningly vague, a series of crisscrossing lines on a map, offering little concrete data. Details were scarce, obscured by layers of deception and the vastness of the desert itself. The pressure on Elias and his specialized team was immense, a suffocating burden to confirm the intelligence, to pierce through the fog of war and pinpoint the exact nature and destination of this deadly cargo. Time was a luxury they did not possess, each passing hour bringing the region closer to an even more volatile precipice. A dangerous infiltration mission was swiftly planned, a high-stakes gamble to gather the precise information needed. The air crackled with an unspoken tension, a palpable sense of impending doom hanging heavy over the arid landscape. Then a cryptic message, intercepted from a secure channel, sent a jolt through the command center. It spoke of a new, devastating weapon, a phrase that chilled Elias to the bone. The implications were horrifying, pushing him to grapple with the ethical complexities of preemptive strikes, the fine line between defense and aggression. Within his team, dissent simmered, voices questioning the alarming risk level of an operation based on such incomplete data. Yet, the clock ticked relentlessly. And then, the inevitable. The convoy began its journey, a ticking time bomb slowly traversing the endless sand, its deadly cargo inching closer to its unknown destination. Elias's team, a tightly knit unit of operatives honed by countless covert missions, deployed deep into the unforgiving expanse of Syrian territory. Their arrival was a whisper in the wind, their presence masked by expertly crafted disguises and the vast, indifferent landscape. Every shadow held potential danger, every distant sound a possible enemy patrol. The harsh environment itself was an adversary, the sun beating down mercilessly, the nights chilling to the bone. They moved with the silent efficiency of predators, their senses acutely tuned to the subtle shifts in the desert's rhythm, knowing that one misstep could unravel everything. It was amidst this perilous backdrop that Layla emerged, a crucial informant whose role would prove pivotal. A Syrian national, her eyes bore the wisdom of a survivor and the guardedness of one who had seen too much. Her loyalties, Elias quickly discerned, were complex, a tangled web of personal vengeance and a desperate hope for a better future for her ravaged homeland. Initially, Layla was a fortress of reluctance, her fear palpable, her every gesture screaming of the immense personal risk she faced by merely speaking to them. She had witnessed firsthand the brutal consequences of defiance, the swift and merciless retribution dealt by the regime and its allies. Elias, a master of psychological warfare, understood that brute force would yield nothing. Instead, he employed a delicate dance of leverage and empathy. He spoke not of abstract ideals, but of the tangible impact the convoy's cargo would have on innocent lives, on the very fabric of her society. He painted a picture of a future where her silence meant more suffering, more destruction. Slowly, painstakingly, Layla's hardened exterior began to crack, a fragile trust forming in the desolate quiet of their clandestine meeting place. He saw in her eyes not just fear, but a burning ember of defiance, a deep-seated desire for justice. A fleeting, involuntary flashback flickered through Elias's mind, a ghost of a past mission gone horribly wrong. The faces of his fallen comrades, the bitter taste of betrayal, the agonizing realization that his judgment had led to their demise. It was a wound that never truly healed. That memory, sharp and unforgiving, underscored his cautious nature, his almost pathological fear of repeating history, of allowing another life to be sacrificed due to an oversight or a misplaced trust. It was a constant, gnawing reminder that every decision carried immense weight, every human connection a potential vulnerability. Layla, once she committed, proved invaluable. Her initial reluctance gave way to a torrent of fragmented but critical details about the convoy's composition, its security protocols, and the intricate network of forces protecting it. She spoke of advanced jamming technology, of elite Revolutionary Guard escorts, of a meticulously planned route designed to evade detection. As Elias's team meticulously pieced together these disparate fragments, a chilling realization dawned upon them. The convoy was far more protected, far more formidable than their initial intelligence had suggested. This was not merely a transport. It was a moving fortress. Their mission nearly ended abruptly when a Syrian patrol, seemingly by chance, stumbled upon their hidden observation post. A tense, heart-stopping standoff ensued, forcing Elias's team to improvise with lightning speed, melting back into the shadows they had so carefully cultivated. The close call served as a stark reminder of the ever-present danger, reinforcing the need for absolute precision and adaptability. Through these shared moments of peril, an unspoken bond began to forge between Elias and Layla. It wasn't friendship, not yet, but a mutual respect born of shared danger and a common, albeit dangerous, goal. Yet, a seed of doubt, an insidious whisper, still lingered in Elias's mind. Could Layla truly be trusted? Was she genuinely committed, or was she a double agent, a pawn in a larger, more intricate game? His past betrayals had left deep scars, making him inherently wary. It was then that Layla, sensing his hesitation, revealed her deepest motivation, a personal vendetta against the Iranian regime, a raw, aching wound that mirrored his own. She spoke of family lost, of communities destroyed, of a future stolen. Her words solidified her resolve in Elias's eyes, transforming her from a mere informant into a fierce, albeit reluctant, ally. Armed with Layla's intimate knowledge, the team identified a glaring vulnerability in the convoy's seemingly impenetrable security protocol. A narrow window, a specific stretch of road where their defenses would be momentarily compromised. A new, more aggressive plan began to crystallize, one that would require the decisive, overwhelming force of air support. Elias, his face etched with the recent desert dust and the fatigue of constant vigilance, stood before the Mossad command, a holographic projection of the Syrian desert map glowing ominously behind him. He detailed his findings, Layla's crucial intelligence woven seamlessly into the broader picture, and then presented the audacious proposal, a coordinated airstrike. The silence in the room was heavy, punctuated only by the soft whirring of the projection equipment. Initial resistance rippled through the ranks of his superiors, their expressions a mixture of apprehension and disbelief. The political ramifications, the potential for catastrophic escalation, the sheer audacity of targeting an Iranian convoy deep within Syrian territory, these were not trivial concerns. Elias, are you truly suggesting we risk a regional war over a single convoy? Director Abrams, a man whose tenure had seen both triumphs and devastating failures, queried, his voice a low rumble that commanded attention. Abrams challenged Elias's judgment, pushing him to justify every detail, every calculated risk. He recalled past operations, meticulously dissecting their flaws, his skepticism a palpable force in the room. But Elias, fueled by a conviction honed in the crucible of the desert, argued passionately, his voice devoid of tremor. He articulated the necessity of the strike, emphasizing the convoy's destructive potential, the sheer volume and lethality of the weapons it carried. He spoke of the regional destabilization, the increased human cost if these armaments reached their intended destinations. Then he delivered the crucial blow, the intelligence that shifted the balance of their internal debate, the presence of a new, devastating weapon on board. He presented the intercepted fragments, the analysis of their technical experts, painting a chilling picture of an armament that could redefine the conflict. The weight of responsibility was palpable, a suffocating blanket descending upon the command center as the decision hung precariously in the balance. An internal debate raged, a moral tightrope walk between preemption and provocation, between safeguarding their nation and igniting a wider conflict. The ethical complexities of covert warfare, the unseen battles fought in the shadows, bore down on every individual present. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Abrams, despite his profound reservations, saw the strategic imperative. He recognized the undeniable threat Elias had so convincingly outlined. With a heavy sigh, a reluctant nod, the approval was granted. Immediately, the gears of the Mossad's military machinery began to turn. Commander Ronan, the Mossad's Air Force liaison, a man whose calm demeanor belied a razor-sharp intellect, began coordinating the intricate details of the airstrike. He outlined the immense complexities of operating in Syrian airspace, the constant threat of sophisticated air defenses, the absolute necessity of avoiding detection at all costs. Every route, every flight path, every potential countermeasure was meticulously analyzed. The specific type of aircraft best suited for the mission, fast, stealthy, and capable of precise payload delivery, was chosen. Munitions were selected for maximum destructive power against armored targets, yet designed to minimize collateral damage, a delicate balance they always strived to maintain. Elias felt the immense pressure of command settle upon his shoulders, a crushing weight. He knew that lives, both innocent and guilty, hung in the balance, dependent on his accuracy, his clear judgment. Just then, a secure message flickered across his console, a final urgent plea from Layla. Her words, relayed through a secure channel, were brief but impactful. Precise targeting, Elias. Avoid the innocent. My people live there. Her voice, though distant, resonated with the quiet desperation of a woman who had seen too much suffering. The countdown to the strike began, a silent tension building, tightening its grip across the entire command center, each second ticking away towards an uncertain future. The convoy continued its relentless journey across the ancient Syrian desert. A serpentine line of hulking vehicles silhouetted against the pale moonlight, utterly oblivious to the invisible threads of fate tightening around it. Elias's team, embedded deep within the desolate terrain, moved like ghosts, their surveillance equipment meticulously tracking every turn, every halt, every subtle shift in the convoy's formation. Real-time updates flowed ceaselessly back to the command center, painting a vivid, constantly evolving picture of the target's progress. Suddenly, the desert, an unpredictable and unforgiving mistress, threw an unexpected obstacle into their meticulously planned operation. A localized sandstorm, swirling out of nowhere, began to whip across their path, drastically reducing visibility and threatening to obscure the convoy from their sensors. Simultaneously, new intelligence indicated an uncharacteristic detour. The lead vehicles veered sharply, abandoning the expected desolate route for a path that skirted the periphery of a small, unsuspecting village, a populated area. These unforeseen complications sent a ripple of alarm through the command center. Commander Ronan, his face etched with concern, immediately began adjusting the airstrike trajectory and timing. The pilots, already airborne and en route, received revised coordinates, their flight plans adapting to the capricious whims of nature and the shifting decisions of their unwitting targets. Elias, watching the red lines on the digital map shift perilously close to civilian habitations, felt a familiar, sickening lurch in his gut. The moral dilemma of potential civilian harm versus the greater good of neutralizing the devastating weapon weighed heavily, a crushing burden that had haunted him since his earliest missions. It was a moment of profound personal crisis for Elias, a chilling echo of a past operation where collateral damage had scarred his conscience, leaving indelible marks of regret. He saw faces in the swirling sand, heard phantom cries of the innocent. He squeezed his eyes shut for a fleeting second, forcing the specters back into the recesses of his mind. This time, he vowed, it would be different. This time, every measure, every precaution would be taken. Just as the sandstorm intensified and the convoy edged closer to the village, Layla's voice, urgent and strained, crackled over the secure channel. She provided crucial last-minute intelligence, a sudden, inexplicable change in the convoy's formation. The most heavily armored vehicles, presumed to be carrying the primary targets, had shifted positions, now nestled deeper within the column, using other trucks as shields. This new information demanded a rapid, precise adjustment to the targeting parameters, a complete recalibration of the strike plan, mid-flight. The pilots, already flying blind through the encroaching dust, received the updated instructions. Their voices, calm and professional, confirmed receipt. But Elias could sense the immense pressure they were under, the razor-thin margin for error. Their mission now required not just precision, but an almost surgical delicacy. Then, just as the revised plan was being finalized, a technical glitch flared across one of the primary targeting screens in the command center. A critical data feed flickered, threatening to delay the strike, to push them past their narrow window of opportunity. An agonizing suspense filled the room. Elias, his jaw clenched, pushed his team to overcome the technical challenges with relentless urgency. "Get it back online! Now!" he commanded, his voice a low growl, knowing that every second lost was a second gained by the enemy, a second closer to potential disaster. The convoy, oblivious to the frantic efforts above and around it, was now entering a critical choke point, a narrow pass between two rocky outcrops, an ideal strike window that would soon close. Director Abrams's voice, grave and resonant, cut through the tension, a stark reminder of the mission's stakes. "Elias," he stated, his tone leaving no room for ambiguity, "this is a no-fail mission, understand?" The targeting system, miraculously, flickered back to life, the data stream restoring just in time. The green lights on the console affirmed readiness. High above, the sleek, dark shapes of the Mossad jets, barely discernible against the deepening twilight, accelerated. The pilots, their training honed to perfection, executed their final pre-strike checks. A silent ballet of advanced machinery against the vast, indifferent night sky commenced. A final desperate check of all intelligence and targeting data was performed. A collective breath held as the fate of a region hung in the balance. The Mossad jets, now a quartet of silent predators, streaked across the vast, star-dusted Syrian desert sky, their advanced stealth technology rendering them practically invisible to the antiquated radar systems below. They were ghost-like, undetected, a silent harbinger of the destruction about to unfold. Back in the command center, the tension was a palpable, suffocating force, every breath held, every flicker of the monitors scrutinized. All eyes were fixed on the tactical display, a digital representation of the desert floor, where the convoy, a tiny line of moving pixels, crawled forward. Elias, his face a mask of grim determination, leaned closer to the console, his voice a low, steady stream of precise coordinates and real-time adjustments. He was the conductor of this deadly orchestra, guiding the unseen instruments of war with unwavering focus. "Target acquisition confirmed on lead vehicle," he murmured into his headset, his gaze never leaving the screen. "Secondary targets identified within the formation, confirming new parameters for altered convoy layout." High above the desert, the lead pilot, Captain Avi, a veteran with eyes that had seen too much, acknowledged the update. He identified the convoy, a string of distant, moving lights cutting a path through the profound darkness of the desert night. The thermal imaging systems painted a stark picture, the heat signatures of engines, the faint outlines of cargo. For a fleeting, almost imperceptible moment, a flicker of hesitation crossed Avi's face. He had carried out countless missions, but each one bore its own unique weight. He thought of the faces of fallen comrades, etched into his memory, victims of the very weapons this convoy harbored. The image, sharp and unforgiving, hardened his resolve, transforming any lingering doubt into cold, professional determination. "Weapons armed," Avi's voice cut through the comms, calm and steady. "Target locked, engaging." Then, with an almost ethereal grace, the missiles detached from the aircraft, tiny, silent flashes of light against the inky blackness of the sky. They arced downwards, guided by an unseen hand, unerringly towards their designated targets. Below, the convoy's security forces, lulled into a false sense of security by the vast emptiness of the desert, were caught completely by surprise. There was no warning, no time to react. The silence of the desert was violently shattered. Explosions erupted across the desert floor, a chain reaction of fire and concussive force that illuminated the night sky in a blinding, terrifying spectacle. The lead vehicles disintegrated in a fiery inferno, followed swiftly by the others. Secondary explosions, even more violent and far-reaching, confirmed Elias's grim assessment. The weapon caches, the devastating cargo these vehicles carried, had been hit, detonating with terrifying force. The ground shuddered, sending tremors through the desolate landscape. Elias watched the monitors, a grim satisfaction settling over him. The digital X marks appearing over the convoy's remnants confirmed the mission's success. The immediate threat, the devastating potential for regional destabilization, had been neutralized. The desert, for a brief, violent moment, became a canvas of destruction. Miles away, hidden amongst the rocky outcrops, Layla observed the fiery spectacle. The distant explosions painted her face with flickering shadows, a complex mix of relief and sorrow. Relief that the dangerous cargo was destroyed. Sorrow for the lives that had been irrevocably altered, even if those lives were aligned with a regime she despised. Initial damage assessments flowed into the command center, confirming the overwhelming success of the strike. The primary targets, the weaponized components, were obliterated. The pilots, their mission accomplished, executed a rapid, practiced exit from Syrian airspace, their stealth capabilities once again shielding them from detection, avoiding any potential for retaliation. A brief, almost reverent moment of quiet triumph settled over the command center. A collective sigh of relief, quickly overshadowed by the profound awareness of the aftermath, the international fallout that was surely to follow. The desert, still echoing with the last vestiges of the explosions, began to reclaim its silence, a silent witness to humanity's relentless, often brutal, struggles. The desert, now scarred and smoldering, bore witness to the immediate aftermath of the precision strike. Twisted metal and scattered debris lay strewn across the landscape, stark monuments to the destructive power unleashed under the cover of darkness. The air hung heavy with the acrid scent of burnt fuel and pulverized earth, a grim testament to the obliteration that had transpired. Far from the immediate devastation, the repercussions began to ripple outwards with astonishing speed. International outcry erupted almost instantaneously. Syria and Iran, predictably, issued vehement condemnations, their official statements ringing with outrage and denying any illicit purpose for the destroyed convoy. They painted a picture of unprovoked aggression, conveniently omitting any mention of the devastating weaponry it had been transporting. The Mossad, true to its operational doctrine, maintained an unwavering official silence, adhering strictly to its policy of plausible deniability. No acknowledgments, no confirmations, just an impenetrable wall of non-response, leaving the world to speculate and draw its own conclusions. Back in Israel, Elias felt the profound emotional toll of the operation. The initial surge of adrenaline had long since dissipated, replaced by a deep-seated weariness. The weight of the destruction, the lives irrevocably altered, even those of the enemy combatants pressed down on him. He knew the strategic necessity, the lives potentially saved by neutralizing the convoy, yet the grim reality of warfare, its inherent brutality, never truly left him unscathed. The faces of the fallen, the unseen consequences, always lingered at the periphery of his consciousness. For Layla, the success of the mission brought with it an immediate and terrifying new reality. Her role, however covert, placed her in unimaginable danger. She was forced to go into hiding, her life now in even greater jeopardy than before. The shadows that had always danced at the edges of her existence now threatened to consume her entirely. Before vanishing into the intricate network of safe houses, there was a brief, poignant farewell between her and Elias. No words were truly necessary. A silent acknowledgement of their shared ordeal, the unspoken understanding of the perilous path they had walked together, passed between them. It was a moment laden with unspoken gratitude and a profound sense of mutual respect, a fragile bond forged in the crucible of shared danger. Elias returned to Israel, to the sterile, brightly lit corridors of Mossad headquarters. He was hailed as a hero by his superiors, his strategic brilliance and unwavering resolve lauded. Yet, within him, a hollowness persisted. The accolades felt distant, almost irrelevant, against the backdrop of the desert's devastation. Director Abrams, his face a mask of complex emotions, expressed his gratitude for the mission's success, but his words carried an implicit warning about future consequences. "This is not an isolated incident, Elias," Abrams had stated, his voice low and gravelly. "It's a single battle in an unending war. Every victory comes with a price and often with unforeseen repercussions." The intelligence gathered from the wreckage further solidified their initial assessment. The new, devastating weapon had indeed been on board, its destructive potential now safely neutralized. But even this confirmation brought little comfort to Elias. His mind drifted to flashbacks of the human cost of war, the innocent lives inevitably caught in the crossfire, the collateral damage that haunted his dreams. He struggled with a gnawing survivor's guilt, questioning the moral cost of victory, the ethical tightrope walked by those who wield such power. Was the preventing of one tragedy worth the creation of another? Then, like a whisper carried on the desert wind, a cryptic message arrived from an unknown source. It was fragmented, coded, but its implications were chilling. It hinted at a deeper conspiracy, a larger, more intricate web of clandestine operations that extended far beyond this single convoy. The strike, while undeniably successful in its immediate objective, had not brought peace. Instead, it had ignited a new wave of tension in the already volatile region, a fresh cycle of aggression and retaliation. Elias understood with a chilling clarity that this was not an end, but merely a pause, a brief interlude in a perpetual, unforgiving conflict. The desert, having borne witness to so much, slowly returned to its desolate silence, but the echoes of the explosions, the silent screams of the victims, would linger there indefinitely, a constant reminder of the fragile peace that hung by a thread. Weeks later, the precarious calm that had settled over the region shattered, replaced by a palpable tension. Intelligence reports, once focused on threats contained, now painted a stark picture of increased Iranian aggression. The Mossad's decisive strike, while preventing one disaster, had inadvertently become the catalyst for another, escalating tensions to a dangerous new precipice. Elias, despite the accolades, found himself haunted by these unforeseen consequences. The grim satisfaction of victory had evaporated, leaving behind a bitter taste of culpability. He had stopped one catastrophe, only to perhaps unleash a wider, more insidious conflict. A new threat, more insidious and widespread, began to emerge. Iranian-backed militias, emboldened and seeking retribution, launched a series of retaliatory attacks across the region. These were not the direct state-sponsored operations Mossad was accustomed to, but rather a hydra-headed insurgency, difficult to pinpoint and even harder to neutralize. Director Abrams, once a bastion of unwavering resolve, now faced unprecedented political pressure. Questions mounted from international bodies and domestic critics alike, demanding justification for the Mossad's actions, implying that the strike had been an act of provocation rather than prevention. The delicate balance of power, so meticulously maintained, now teetered on the brink. Amidst this escalating chaos, a chilling piece of intelligence reached Elias. Layla's safety was compromised. Her identity as an informant, once a closely guarded secret, was leaking. Whispers, then outright accusations, began to circulate through the shadowy networks of Syrian intelligence. Elias felt a visceral jolt of fear, not for himself, but for her. A personal responsibility, far transcending his professional duties, surged within him. He had promised her protection, and that promise, in his eyes, was sacrosanct. Going against protocol, defying direct orders, Elias initiated a covert mission, meticulously planning her extraction. The risks were immense, the consequences potentially career-ending, but he could not abandon her. The mission was fraught with danger, a perilous journey that led Elias back into the very heart of hostile territory he had so recently departed. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, every distant sound a potential pursuer. He confronted his own demons once more, the cold grip of fear tightening around his resolve, the haunting specter of another failure looming large. The memory of his past missteps, the lives lost under his command, fueled both his caution and his determination. This time, he vowed, there would be no collateral damage, no innocent lives sacrificed. He moved with a silent primal efficiency, a predator slipping through the night. A tense encounter with Syrian intelligence agents in a dimly lit alleyway forced Elias to improvise with brutal efficiency, narrowly escaping capture. His training, honed over decades of clandestine operations, kicked in, allowing him to melt back into the urban labyrinth before the alarm could be properly raised. Finally, after days of relentless pursuit and near misses, he located Layla. She was injured, bearing the marks of her ordeal, but alive. Her eyes, filled with a mixture of pain and relief, met his, and in that gaze, her faith in him was unequivocally reaffirmed. A silent understanding passed between them, a recognition of the profound trust that bound them. Their escape became a desperate race against time, a relentless pursuit across the unforgiving landscape. Syrian forces, now fully aware of Layla's identity and Elias's presence, were closing in. Every twist and turn of the dusty roads, every hidden path, became a battleground. Elias realized, with a sobering clarity, the true cost of his choices, both personal and professional. The moral ambiguities of his world, once abstract concepts, were now tangible, etched onto Layla's bruised face and the ever-present threat of capture. The climactic chase, a blur of speed and precision, highlighted Elias's unparalleled resourcefulness and his unwavering determination to see Layla to safety, a testament to the iron will that defined him. Elias and Layla finally reached a secluded safe house, a small, unassuming dwelling tucked away in a remote village, its anonymity their only shield. The immediate danger had passed, but the air still thrummed with the aftershocks of their escape. Layla, her wounds tended, rested fitfully, her body still trembling with exhaustion and fear. Elias watched over her, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting obligations. He faced an agonizing choice: return to Mossad headquarters, face the inevitable disciplinary action for his insubordination, and accept whatever fate awaited him within the agency's rigid hierarchy, or go rogue, permanently severing ties with his past to ensure Layla's continued safety. The Mossad, he knew, would never fully guarantee her protection outside their direct purview, especially after his rogue operation. His personal growth, forged in the crucible of this mission and the ghosts of his past, demanded he prioritize Layla's well-being above all else. He chose her. Miles away in the sterile confines of Mossad Command, Director Abrams received the intel regarding Elias's unsanctioned extraction. A flicker of anger crossed his face, quickly replaced by a grudging admiration. Elias had broken every rule in the book, yet he had succeeded where others would have failed. He understood, perhaps better than anyone, the depth of Elias's commitment, his fierce loyalty not just to country, but to the individuals caught in the crossfire. Abrams knew Elias was a maverick, but he was their maverick. He began to formulate a plan, one that would both uphold protocol and leverage Elias's unique capabilities. Elias, meanwhile, meticulously orchestrated Layla's safe passage. He leveraged old contacts, called in favors that had lain dormant for years, weaving a complex web of deception to ensure her new identity and destination remained untraceable. He arranged for her to travel far from the volatile region to a place where the shadows of war would not reach her, where she could finally rebuild a life free from fear. The farewell was understated, yet profoundly emotional. In a quiet, dusty room, their eyes met one last time. There were no grand pronouncements, no promises of reunion. A shared nod, a silent acknowledgement of the bond forged in fire and desperation, was all that passed between them. Layla's gratitude was etched on her face, a silent testament to Elias's unwavering commitment. As she departed into the dawn, Elias felt a profound sense of completion. A burden lifted. He had protected the innocent, atoned for his past, and in doing so had found a measure of redemption. His duty done, Elias returned to Mossad, prepared to face the music. He walked into Abrams' office, expecting censure, perhaps even dismissal. Instead, the director regarded him with an unreadable expression. Abrams, in a move that surprised even Elias, did not punish him. Instead, he offered Elias a new, more challenging role. It was a position that demanded his unique blend of ruthlessness and empathy, a role that would place him at the forefront of the agency's most sensitive and dangerous operations, often operating outside conventional lines. Elias, understanding that his recent experiences and his willingness to defy convention had made him uniquely qualified for such a demanding post, accepted. He knew the perpetual struggle against the forces threatening peace would continue. The region remained a tinderbox, and new challenges would inevitably arise. Elias carried the scars of his past, the weight of every lost life, every difficult decision. But he also carried the strength of his convictions, the quiet confidence of a man who had faced his demons and emerged, if not unscathed, then certainly whole. He had found a semblance of peace, not in the absence of conflict, but in the knowledge that he had done what was right, even when it meant breaking the rules. The story concluded not with a definitive end to the global conflict, for such an end was an illusion, but with Elias, a changed man, standing ready. The shadows still lingered, always would, but he was no longer haunted by them. He was their hunter, a guardian against the unseen threats, forever vigilant, forever dedicated to protecting the innocent. He was ready for whatever the future, in its relentless unfolding, would bring.